Welcome to our live session. I am joined today by Joao Mesquita from the Mind Whisper. Joel, how are you? How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Patrick. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you, thank you. It's great to have you. And my name is Patrick LaRose, and I'm from the Life Coach Hub. And I'm really excited today to have a great conversation with Joel. And him and I had a conversation before we went live about his name. So
Mhm.
I think I'm doing okay. Am I doing all right?
It was perfect. It was good.
Excellent.
Thank you for that.
So, Joelle, your Mind Whisper newsletter is really focused on three pillars. You want to focus on, well, focus, consistency, and structure. So, can you tell us a little bit more about what that means?
Yes. So when I started this newsletter, I was thinking about the things that I was struggling the most with. And this newsletter to me started as a way for me to write almost like a journal but made public. And so the main focus was the things that I was struggling the most with. And I wanted to find a way that I could put my life together, uh, be more productive, and be more fulfilling with the things that I was doing. And so focus, consistency, and structure were the things I was lacking the most in my life, personally and also professionally. And so when I was thinking about, okay, what do I want to write about? Because I'm naturally an overthinker, so I could write about so many different things. And then I realized, okay, these are the things that I struggle the most with, and I had to overcome these things. So I'm probably, well, I have some experience, talking and thinking about these things. So let's make it about it.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty advanced for somebody as young as you are. So, what were the motivations behind all that?
Yes. So to some metrics, I am considered young, but it goes quite back. It goes quite back. So I had I'm not gonna say a rough um, childhood, but there were a couple of things that were lacking in my perspective, and so I was forced to go through a lot of things, and in a way, I kind of lacked some support, and I had to kind of find a way to overcome these things by myself. And so I lean on a lot on personal development and books and emotional intelligence and all these things at a very young age, like 14, 15. And I started reading a lot. I started finding ways to communicate better, to understand why people would behave a certain way, and that consistently for a couple of years. My while I was a teenager, and then a young adult, early 20s, it kind of started to pile up that knowledge and experience dealing with these things on my personal life, and so that led to me, uh, wanting to share more about like these lived experiences and hopefully inspire or help other people that would be going through something similar.
Wow, that's pretty impressive, I have to tell you. Did you have a mentor or anybody to help guide you along that way?
Actually, I did. I think at some point everyone has mentors, everyone needs mentors. And I have a few. And there's actually a very fun story how this all began. I I was fortunate enough to travel to Thailand. I'm from Portugal. I'm Portuguese. And I traveled to Thailand when I was young, around 16, 17. And I had my book with me, which was it was about emotional intelligence precisely. And I remember one day I was just walking around the pool of the hotel, just reading my book. And there was an old man that was sitting in one of the lounges next to the pool. And he was interesting in the book that I was reading. So he asked me, "What are you reading about? Why are you so young? Why are you reading about that book?" And we kind of had a little interaction, 15 minutes more or less. And it turned out that he was a retired executive from really big banks. He was also an executive at a really big airport in the US, and he had lived in like so many different continents and countries. So he was a very experienced person, and we ended up exchanging emails. and I had been in touch with him to this day, so for years. And he would just share so many different things about communication and all sorts of topics. We would jump on calls like we're doing now, and he would kind of guide me through a couple of things. So that was my very first mentor. Not the only one, but that's how started. He was one of the people that introduced me a lot to personal development and some of the things that I know today.
Well, that's impressive. What's really interesting is that you're still in touch with him today, and that's something else. So I just want to pause for a minute and welcome everybody. We've got quite a few people that are here in our space today. So thank you, David. It's nice to see you. And let's see, we've got a lot of folks here: JP and Viper, and let's see, Nisha, Tim, Anna, Black
Some people.
Papers. Yeah, it's a great audience today. So both Joao and I are interested in your questions. If you have any questions that you want us to answer, we're happy to do so, and we'll stop our conversation to go ahead and answer those questions. So, but we were talking about mentorship, and I think that really translates well to coaching. For me, becoming a coach was a natural transition from my nursing career. I've been a nurse for 25 years, or actually, I have to revise that. It's been longer than 25 years, but 25 years feels better to me than to say 40 years. But
Yep.
I started my nursing career when I was 19 years old, so I was very young. But throughout my life and throughout my career, I've always coached people. I just never did anything on a formal basis. And so, this last year in 2025, I decided to formalize that education and to move more into the realm of coaching by finishing up some formalized training and then sitting for my board certification in November. And so I was happy to pass the board certification and become nationally certified as a coach. But my focus in starting my coaching practice on Substack was because I really wanted to build in public and I wanted to have some levels of transparency. My question for you is, what made you decide to come over to Substack when you have such a big presence on LinkedIn?
That's a really good question. And the original answer was I wanted to expand. So I thought I was doing a lot of writing on LinkedIn, like you said, and I thought that I could just repurpose with little to no work what I was writing there to another platform with hopefully another audience, which it ended up working, and it is working. And also, I Substack was actually initially the platform where I created my newsletter like 4 years ago, but I never actually posted anything here until this year. That's another story. So I was like, I have this account anyways. I had Mind Whisper, the newsletter created already. So it's like maybe it's a natural next step, a way to expand.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I think that was mine too. I mean, I started my newsletter in June of last year, but I really wasn't ready to post anything. I
Right.
was,
That's
preparing.
not.
I was preparing to go and start my practice, going live in January of 2026 with my practice. But I really wanted to build an audience first and a community. That was really hugely important to me. So, and really kind of find my tribe, right? On Substack,
Yes.
the people that I resonate with and people that resonate with me. And, doing that, I think really helped me find a group of people that, I just incredibly value. So let me ask you this. When you look at building a community, what does that look like for you on Substack versus what you've built on LinkedIn?
So I think LinkedIn and Substack are completely different platforms, not just in the way they're built, but also in the people that hang out there. And what I mean by that is, I feel like LinkedIn is a much more polished, professional, business oriented platform, whereas Substack is more relaxed, is more, I feel like it's more okay to share more personal things, more unfiltered content. So I think both work extremely well, but I've found LinkedIn. I need to be careful with what I say here, but I found LinkedIn a little bit more surface level, more superficial to some extent. Whereas Substack, I just feel that people are way more relaxed. They're just more themselves. They're not polishing the content as much to, to attract the audience. They're just writing from the heart. They're sharing what they know, sharing what they've been through, and it just feels more authentic. What do you feel? How has your experience been here?
Yeah, I think it's much the same. I think LinkedIn is pretty superficial. A lot of folks on LinkedIn are really professionally oriented, moving forward with what they're doing professionally, and I think that's a great platform for that. I don't necessarily find vulnerability and realness. Maybe more authenticity on LinkedIn, but when I came to Substack, I think what I really found was people who were being authentic, really wanting to find connections with other people who were being
Mhm.
authentic as well and vulnerable. And yeah,
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, Patrick. I really like LinkedIn. I've had an amazing experience there, and I still am enjoying it. I've got a lot of friends that I met through LinkedIn that I speak on a daily basis. I got clients from LinkedIn, so LinkedIn brought me a lot of good things, and hopefully
sure.
it will continue to bring in the future. But I feel like I can be myself, and I feel more relaxed when I'm on Substack than when I'm
Yeah.
on LinkedIn. I feel like I need to perform more, if that makes sense there.
Yeah, listen, I agree with you. I think LinkedIn is a wonderful platform, and I have a lot of professional connections on LinkedIn, which
Mhm.
I have valued over the years. But there's just something different about Substack. I agree with you, and it's more about, I think, being able to create a community of people who maybe get you on a deeper level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. But I'm also quite new to Substack. It's been a month and so I hopefully I will learn more about the platform in the coming months.
Absolutely. I think, from my perspective, first of all, I think the biggest thing for me has been the connections. Like here we are doing a live. Now, I've never met you, Joao. All I've met is you through Substack and through your writing, but your writing spoke to me. And, I think you subscribed to my newsletter, and then I read your content, subscribed to your newsletter, and then I saw you on a live with Shalini, who I adore, by the way. Just have to say that. And I thought, I got to get a hold of
It's
this guy. We
amazing.
need to do a live together.
No, and yeah, the thing I like the most about this platform is like how easily we can get in touch with other people, and i- and this is actually a good transition to the question I wanted to ask you, which is you obviously have more experience that I have lived years, and that's a really good thing, by the way. And so I wanted to understand from your perspective and from your experience and broad knowledge, what are the main things that you bring from your experience on the nursing side and the clinical work that you did, all of that interactions with patients and everything? What are the main things that you bring that you feel like you can bring online to the platform, to your writing? How all of that experience influences what you do now today?
Wow, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. I think what I bring is lived experience. I have been fortunate to be working with people who were at their most vulnerable period in their life throughout my career, and being able to be a part of their health and wellness and really helping them recover has been a huge privilege and honor for me. And I've always been a person who wanted to help one way or the other. I wanted to be helpful. And so what I bring to Substack is those lived experiences, that authenticity. If you read my newsletter, you'll see the real me. It's not anything that's contrived. It's never perfect by any stretch. And I talk about vulnerabilities, like going live with a practice in public was really challenging. But I did that because I felt like other people are doing this and they need to see that what they're going through, that messy middle, is real.
Yes.
And, if I can get through it, they can get through it. Right. And so that's where I think the premise of my whole newsletter comes from. And also, letting them know I'm available to them if they're ready to move into a transition in their life. All I got to do is just DM me and we can have a conversation. One of the taglines I have in my newsletter is I want to hear your story. And it's true. It's not like a marketing tagline.
Yes.
I am the least marketing capable person in the world, trust me. But it's real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What about you?
So obviously, I don't have as much experience as you. I'm still figuring out, and what I write about, what I did in terms of coaching, were was just from my experience. And one thing that I always say is I don't like to touch on things. I don't feel comfortable to touch on things that I haven't experienced myself. Just because I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm just recommending or suggesting something just because I read it and from a motivational post somewhere, right? So I talk about the things that I've struggled with, and I know how it feels to be in that position because maybe I was stuck in a doom cycle for years, actually. So I know how it feels to be frustrated, wanting to do something, and just cannot get out of that place. But I know how I got out. So now maybe if there's someone who's stuck in a similar situation, I can help them. I can talk about my story. I can share what worked for me. And it's not guaranteed that will work for other people, but at least I've been through it. I know how it feels. I have the empathy to understand and to sit with someone and listen to their story. And hopefully, if nothing else, then at least I can give them my attention, my time. And sometimes I've had people saying to me that I was not able to fix their issue, but just sitting there and giving my time and my attention was enough to comfort them. And sometimes that's all we can do.
Oh, I love that. This last 24 hours, I've been posting about presence and being present in the moment. And, sometimes people just want to be heard and they just want to be
Yes.
seen. And when you're able to do that and to demonstrate that presence, that's huge, you know? Wow.
Yes. I've had one session, one coaching session with someone. It lasted 40 minutes, and I think I spoke maybe 5 because the whole time it was just me listening to someone. And on that day, what that person needed was to speak and feel heard and seen, like you said.
Oh man, that's powerful. That's been my experience as well. In fact, in coaching sessions, as I'm sure you know, there's not a whole lot that I'm doing other than being present, authentically present, not just,
Mhm.
you see my
Yes.
face, I'm truly in that moment with you. I'm in that space with you. And my whole philosophy is I want to hear your inner wisdom. I want to hear where it is you think you need to be. And it's from there that we can develop pattern recognition. The limiting mindsets or limiting beliefs come through and they come through so loud, you know? And that's
Yes.
really, as a coach, I want my clients to have the epiphany, that awakening, like,
Mhm.
oh, I never even realized I was thinking that way or saying those things until they're, represented to them and say, well, what you said is this, and is this really true?
Mhm.
When you ask a deep question like that, is this true? It makes the client think, oh my gosh, is this true? Is this really how I feel? And from
Mhm.
there, you can move forward. And that's an amazing moment, I think.
One of the one of the reasons why I resonated so much with your content is precisely because of the limiting beliefs part that you touched so much, because that was one of the biggest challenges for me a couple of years ago, and it still is, but now I'm more aware of it at least. But I used to tell myself so many things like, oh, I cannot do this because of that. I cannot start a business because of that. And one of the biggest mistakes I did in my life was I graduated university when I was 20-ish, more or less. And I got into my dream job. I studied IT, computer engineering, and I my dream job at the time was working for Cisco, the networking company. And I had a contract signed with them even before finishing university. So I did it. I managed to get my dream job. And within 1 year, I quit because I had these limiting beliefs that I couldn't do anything else while working a 9 to 5. So I worked so much and I invested so much to get that job. And then when I was there, I just couldn't work these doubts out to the point that and look, Patrick, I had so much free time at the time. I could work a 9 to 5 and I could do everything else I wanted on the side, right? But I had convinced myself that I couldn't, that while I was on a 9 to 5, I couldn't start a newsletter, I couldn't start a coaching business or anything else that I wanted to do at the time. So I quit. Like my dream job, I quit within a year. And and that was one of the biggest lessons for me. And again, like now I know because I was there and I made a mistake and I struggled a lot after that. And I had to work my way out of that position where I was. Now I'm back at Cisco. It's still my day job, and I'm correcting my mistake. I'm building the newsletter. I'm doing coaching. I'm doing everything on the side. Now I will never quit again. I've learned that mistake now.
It's funny that you brought that up because I follow a creator named Vinayak Ramesh. I think you follow him as well. And Vinayak says this very clearly. I work a 9 to 5, and then from 5 to 9 is where I do my business. But, going back to those limiting mindsets, when we challenge them with reality, and with truth, is this something that I truly believe I can't do? And when we replace that, movement from I can't to I can, the possibilities are amazing, and the change that represents for a person. And you're a great example of that. I mean, how did that change you when you remove that limiting mindset?
To me, I feel like it just feels like I'm free again.
Yeah.
It's as if I was inside this cage, this mental cage where I I just couldn't move or I couldn't breathe, and I was stuck to only doing those things that I was already doing, and everything that would be outside that was not a possibility for me. But
Yeah.
in reality, I like to say that our belief system sets the ceiling of what is possible for us to achieve, and it limits our potential, right? And that's really all we're doing. It's like if I say I cannot do something because of this or that, then I cannot. It's not a possibility anymore for me. And I lived like that for many years until I realized, okay, that's not true. If there's other people doing it, what's wrong with me? Why could I not do the same thing? Like like there's nothing wrong with me. I can do it, right? And so one of the ways that to me, and I'm gonna ask you this after, but one of the ways that I deconstruct these beliefs, these limiting beliefs, is just testing them. Now that's what I do. Now I wish I knew that before, but so if there's something that I think it's not possible, then I ask myself, okay, why do I think this is not possible? And can I find ways to prove otherwise? Right? Is there something that I can do right now on the spot to prove myself wrong? Or has anyone done something that, proves my theory wrong? And so, and I know there's many ways that you can go about deconstructing limiting beliefs, but like from your experience, like what would you recommend? How would you approach someone with a problem like this?
Yeah, I think first is to understand what inner narrative they're hearing that says that they can't do this, or there's a belief that they're limited. A lot of times it's from noises that they've heard throughout their life where, in those noises and those voices live within their head and tell
Mhm.
them, you know, and a lot of times those noises are self-protective. Like, for example, I can't do this because I need all my energy for my dream job, and if I expend all my energy in the evening, I'm going to be tired in the morning when I go to my dream job and I won't perform well. And do you see how that cascades into that mentality of
Yes.
I might get fired or I might get brought up on performance reviews? So if I devote 100% of my energy to the dream job, I'm safe, I'm secure. And that may be your interpretation of the voices that you heard in your head. But when you challenged that and you said, show me evidence of people who are doing this and surviving, you then
Yes.
discovered the truth that you have the capacity to do the 9 to 5 and perform extremely well, but also have time devoted for your own interests. And when you take the moment to make the decision to do that, that's where the transition is. That's where the transformation comes in your mind of what other things do I think I can't do that I
Yes.
really can, right? And that starts the whole ball
Yeah.
rolling with limiting
Yeah.
mindsets. So,
If I may follow up on that, do you think we can talk our way out of a limiting belief, or we need to get to action? We need to prove ourselves that we need to do something. Do we think there needs to be action, or we can, for example, not just do the self-talk, but also find someone who did something and use them as an example?
oh, absolutely. I think, and to that point, you talked about a mentor. Mentors help us see things from a different perspective, from a different vantage
Mhm.
point. And mentors who've been through this can help us visualize where we want to be in the future and help really challenge those limiting mindsets. I know for me, in my life, I've had mentors who've helped me with limiting mindsets because I grew up with the mentality of, you're not good enough. You can't do that. Nobody in
Yep.
our family's ever done that. So why should you be able to do that? And those voices lived in my head for so many years. And when you challenge those voices with a new mantra in a new internal dialogue that says, how is it that I'm not enough? Is that really true? What do you mean I'm not smart enough to, go through and get my RN? Is that really true? Yet I have performance now in college where I'm passing courses. So
Mhm.
it sometimes takes mentorship. It sometimes takes a true belief in resilience in your own internal strength to move past those limiting mindsets. Now, the easy way is to work through it yourself, right? Um, and you'll eventually get, I shouldn't say the easy way. The harder way is to work through it yourself. You'll eventually get there. The way that is most productive is to bring on a mentor or coach to help you
Mhm.
realize how many of those limiting mindsets you have, right?
Mhm. That's a good point, and also one thing that I've noticed is I've had coaches and I've had a lot of self inner work. So I've had both. One thing that I noticed, again, from my experience, is that sometimes I knew how to do the self talk and I had the mentors telling me something, but I was still not receptive and I would still fight back. So, from your experience, what do you think that needs to happen for someone to become open to receive this, not just the inner talk, but also, but mostly the perspective from the mentor
Mhm.
or the coach?
Well, I think The biggest thing for me is to establish a container of safety and confidentiality and not judgment. The moment that a client feels that they're not safe or that what they're sharing isn't confidential or they're being judged, they're going to shut down, and then the whole relationship becomes challenged. And so I think when you look at, your life or anybody, that you work with, your ability to be present in the moment with them, to understand what they're saying and what their limiting beliefs are, and then to not judge them, but to help them see the patterns of their thinking. It's through those interactions that trust develops. Now, to be honest with you, a client may take a couple of sessions before they're actually ready to think differently or challenge that belief. And in some cases, it may take the entire season of sessions for that individual to get to that place. Our ability to help them move into that place, though, is really what values the coaching relationship, in my opinion, anyway. I have a question for you, though. So let me ask you this when we look at, because you write a lot about leadership. And I'm curious, in a culture that rewards a lot of noise, how does grounded leadership look to you? What does that look like?
So leadership, well, I don't have a lot of experience on leadership personally, but one thing that I've observed a lot from like working a corporate job and having managers and a structure in place, one thing that I think I think one thing that misses a lot is awareness,
Mhm.
at least from my experience. And I think there's a lot of by now, like there's a lot of playbooks on how to be a leader, things that we need to do, how to support, and how to keep a team going and all these things. And I've seen a lack of awareness to the point that someone would need something and they wouldn't get the reassurance or the support they needed, right? Because I feel like if I think about myself and my engineering job, I know what I'm supposed to do, but sometimes there are struggles. There are things that I'm going through in my personal life, and I need to feel understood. I need to feel heard, just like all the things that we said. And sometimes I don't have the capacity to perform the way that I should because A, B, or C. And or sometimes I overperform, right? Whatever it is, I feel like there needs to be a clear recognition and awareness from the manager to understand, okay, like what's going on, why is this person doing more, doing less, and again, people will be different. In terms of recognition, for example, is one thing that I've seen, that one person wants one thing, another person wants another thing. And so the job of a leader in this case is to understand, okay, who do I have below my umbrella? How are they different? How can I get to know this person to a point, to a level that I know, okay, how can I really be there to help this person achieve their full potential? Another thing that I see is the job, you have a couple of responsibilities, and I think a leader should really look at their team and understand, okay, what are the strengths that I have to play with, right? Like because everyone has different strengths, and so the way that you would demand from all the different people that you have on your team can look slightly different according to the strengths that everyone has, and you can optimize different people in different ways to achieve whatever outcome you need to, right? But I feel like everything is a bit strict. It's like they demand the same from, and that comes from awareness, right? Is like understanding all these things and being able to be there, sitting with a person, uh, s- seeing what you have in front of you, and
Mhm.
thinking outside the box to understand how you can place the pieces differently.
I think that's magnificent, but that really speaks to your understanding of an emotional intelligence. When we look at leadership and how to stay grounded, it really does come right down to the person, right? To the people that you oversee. and recognizing that life happens. And when life happens, our ability to be able to roll with that, to support the person, and
Mhm.
also to be flexible in allowing them to have those moments where they may not have the capacity to perform at the level that they usually do. And
Mhm.
a leader recognizes that and helps the person move forward. The other thing that you said, which I thought was really good, is understanding the strengths and balances of your team, the strengths and weaknesses, because that gives you the opportunity to really balance that workflow and play to people's strengths. And if somebody needs more
Mhm.
development,
Yes.
helping them move in that direction. So that's brilliant. Yeah.
Yes.
Let me
But
just see here. We have a couple of people who've David, David said, my thoughts exactly right now. I'm not sure what that was in relationship because we've covered so much stuff today.
it's been
David
some time
said,
ago.
yeah. David said, mentors pretty much have changed my life. You can't get from a friend or a colleague what you do from a mentor or coach. I agree. I agree. And a lot of times friends or colleagues, they'll want to give you advice, you know, well, you should do it XYZ. Whereas a coach or a mentor, I think, allows you to realize your own path.
Mhm. So yeah, the one of the biggest differences that I've noticed because I've been on both positions. So wanted before I knew I wanted to become a coach and did the work and that I'm still going through, I was the friend who people would come to me because they thought I held some wisdom or knowledge. So they would come to me for advice on many different life things. And one thing that I realized is like I would always try to share something like, oh, maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that. And now one thing that I learn is a coach will listen, will sit there, will understand, maybe will ask questions to guide the person because the answers are within the person anyways. It's okay, I can advise something that maybe work for me, or maybe I read online from a Patrick's post, but I don't know if that's gonna work for the person. So maybe I need to understand more. So maybe I need to ask questions and the person will think about that and maybe search within themselves and come up with something. Recommendations, we need to be careful with those. But guidance, I think it's always given. It's always necessary.
Yeah, I think what's important to recognize here, and this is a philosophy I carry as a coach, is that people inherently are not broken and they don't need to be fixed. They have an inner wisdom that allows them to propel forward in self discovery of where they want to be. Now, can they find that on their own? Yeah, eventually they will. And that's a reality. But a coach helps them discover it sooner. And to your point, it really capitalizes on their own internal abilities to move in a direction that works for them and that helps with their personal transformation or personal identity or whatever it is they're doing. That's from my perspective, but other coaches may have different challenges or different perspectives.
Oh, sure, I'm sure they do. I wanted to ask you one thing because so one of the main pillars that I touch on is focus. Focus meaning attention and the way that you know, we control our time and our energy. And I think people are too distracted nowadays. I think that's a given. At this point, I think everyone knows that. And so, if we talked a lot about awareness and how important it is. So, if someone is too distracted and they're just like constantly numbing their feelings or their negative experiences with cheap dopamine, doom scrolling, fast food, all these things. If someone doesn't sit with themselves to have reached that level of awareness, how do you think can these people because they're not going to have the awareness to reach out to a mentor or to reach out to a coach, and they're also not going to have the like they're not going to voluntarily try to sit with themselves and understand what's going on, right? So how can are these people unfixable? Like, how can we address and help these people when they're just like too stuck in this
Mhm.
negative cycle?
I think that's a really good question. I often think that readiness on the person's part is a big issue. There has to be some level of readiness for something different in their life. One of the things that I think having a presence like we do on Substack,
Uh-huh.
where people read the messages, and I've often spoken about this is that, somebody might read a message and carry it with them. And then when they need it, it's there and it helps them to make a decision that's important in their life. And it may be something that you wrote 2 weeks ago. Okay. And maybe something I wrote 2 weeks ago. And then suddenly the person who's reading it, who may have been resistant to change or may not have even thought they needed to change, reads that message and remembers it and says, "Hey, this meant something to me at this moment. And I want to look at a way to improve my life a little bit and begin to, take that query and then start to move forward with change." Fundamentally, people, I think you can coach people all you want, but when they're not ready to change or there's a huge resistance to change, it becomes a real challenge for them. Now, I've had clients who've come into coaching sessions and they've said, "I'm not really sure why I'm here, but I'm here." And again, you have that confidentiality, safe space, non judgmental. Let's explore the possibilities. And when you open it like that and you allow people to just share, remember you said earlier, I had a client where I didn't say much, I just listened.
Yeah.
That's those moments, right, Joel? That's those moments where people say, "I don't know why I'm here." And then all of a sudden, the next hour, they share with you why they're there. It's from those moments that you can help focus them and say, "Well, what about this? And how do we move forward from here? What's the one takeaway that you learned about yourself today in this session?" And sometimes it's amazing what you hear.
Yeah, that's true, and that reminded me of another question, and so I want to frame for you. So my first experience, live experience with psychology, was when I was in high school. My parents put me in a psychologist because of a couple of reasons, and at first I knew nothing about how that worked, so I just went and
Yes, David, I agree. It was a great, great question he asked about.
that's what I was telling you about my dog. He woke up. I apologize for that. So I was just saying. So that was my first live experience with a psychologist, and at the time I knew nothing about how that worked, and so I was a bit skeptical, but I was open to it, and so I went, and he sat with me for a couple of sessions, and all he did was open child books, so it was like very entry level, and it was about emotional intelligence. So that's all he I sat with him and he taught me emotional intelligence through child books, children books. And that to say that there's a lot of people, and I feel like there's a negative connotation to mental work and going to a psychologist and seeing a therapist or a mentor or a coach. But on the physical side, we don't see that, right? It's like if you have a headache, you go to the doctor right away. Sometimes you go to the doctor for nothing really. But when it comes to thinking about your thoughts or thinking about like your mental health, I feel like there's this resistance as if we're calling someone crazy. So from all your experience, like clinical work and all the work on the field, what is your opinion about it?
Oh man, what a powerful question that is, Joel. First of all, we need to distinguish some differences. Number one, the differences between therapy and coaching, because I think there's a very clear line between the two. Therapy deals with past life issues that are impacting your life today. Whether it be trauma, psychological dysfunction, abuse, any number of issues that need to be dealt with to help enrich your life and to make your life a little bit more meaningful to you. So that would be therapy. Coaching
Okay.
can build upon what you've learned in therapy to develop and design pathways forward in your life so you can achieve transformation, or you can achieve a life that is enriching and robust for you. Okay. So that with an understanding of those two things, the clear thing is that mental health is important. And mental health and dealing with mental health is no different than dealing with your heart. If you have a heart issue, dealing with high blood pressure, diabetes, there's no difference between getting good mental health and having good clinical care on the other systems in your body, right? And so today in society, we're starting to see shifts that
Yes.
help us better understand that mental health is really something that's very important for us to achieve. And that if we're struggling with mental health, that we really need to seek assistance. And so anybody today that watches this video or sees this live call between the two of us, if you're struggling with your mental health, I encourage you to seek help. And it's okay. It's okay. And it's something that I hope that you do for yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree, and maybe I'm biased because since an early age I was very open to it, and actually I enjoyed it. The only reason I stopped going to that psychologist is because it was expensive, and I got to a point where I realized how to do the work. Right. So
Yeah.
one of the main things that I got from it is he taught me how I could be self sufficient to some extent. And so I started reading books and not just from the perspective of reading, but get the tools and use them on myself. And that's the best thing that I to me it was the best thing that I could have gone through because well, it got me to where I am now. I think
Yeah.
I'm apart from the mentors and the coaches, which I think everyone should have. I feel like from the mental health perspective, I think I become self sufficient, and it was because of that experience, right? And I see a lot of people, like a lot of friends that resist it and feel like, "Oh, psychologist, no, that's not for me."
Yeah.
What are you trying to say? Like, are you calling me crazy, Lisa? And so I just wish they would be open to try at least. I feel like it would be a good experience.
Well, I think we're seeing a lot more openness about people taking good care of their mental health. But the whole positivity about your experience with a psychologist that really helped you move forward in your life is the whole goal of having good mental health, because it allows you to get to a place in your life that you can build upon. If you're still dealing with childhood issues or trauma or events that have occurred in your life, it makes it really difficult for you to build a future, when those are coming back to haunt you, because we talk about central nervous system regulation, we talk about the understanding of safety and protection. And a lot of the systems in our body are governed by where we are up here. And if that's not healthy, or if it's in a bad place, or in a place that could benefit from therapy, then that's where people need to be. And so bravo to you, because I think that when you arrive in a place where you can build a robust life off of good mental health, that deserves applause.
Yeah, that reminded me a story. I was a few weeks ago. I was testing an AI bot, so to speak, that I was building, and the idea was to train the bot to coach me. right? And so I was testing it out, and it was asking me a bunch of questions about myself, like the initial coaching
Right.
work to understand and frame the whole perspective. And the bot asked me a question that it made me think for 3 days, and it made me realize I had something unresolved from my high school days that was limiting some things on my daily work, right? And it was so powerful that I had to book a session with one of my mentors and discuss this with a real person because the bot did its job. It did pretty good.
I'm
But that's
impressed that you did that.
which part you mean?
I'm impressed that you took the information from the bot, but that you reached out to a human. That's a good thing.
Mm. Yeah, because I needed to explore that deeper, like deeper, and the bot wouldn't be able to help, right? So I needed someone who knew me as a person and had followed me for a couple of
That's
years to help me, um, you know, depuzzle that part. But it was something that I had deep rooted in me that apparently scarred me so deeply, and I had just forgotten it. If it wasn't for that question that the bot asked me, I I wouldn't have made the association between that event and this other fear or insecurity. It was
right.
only in that moment that it just clicked, and all of a sudden I realized, okay, that's why that or yeah.
Mhm. And that may have answered a question for you as well about why you have protections in that area of your life. And because it's something that, is still unresolved. Maybe you don't have an answer for it. And so brilliant, brilliant. But one of the points that I think is really important is that we can go to AI for coaching and get, visceral response, not visceral responses, but just responses. But the reality of it is that AI can't provide you with that lived human experience and then also understand the nuances of changes in vocal recognition and expression and whatnot that a coach, a live human being coach, does have and does offer. But we have had an amazing conversation today, Joel. I hope you've found it as enjoyable as I have.
I learned quite a lot, Patrick.
I
I
have too.
really
I
enjoyed
have
it. Well.
too. Thank you. And we had 19 people on the call today. Thank you so much. And, you know, Joel, I look forward to having future lives with you.
Of course, anytime. Hopefully, next time I invite you into my side and
Yeah,
we can continue the conversation. But of course, I think this is more human and it has more depth to the texts that we do every day.
I think so too. I think so too. And to everybody who joined us, thank you all so much for being with us today. And I hope everyone has a moment of joy, even if it's just a small moment of joy today. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Joel.
Bye, everyone. Bye,
Bye bye
Patrick.
now.
Thank you.